Sweden is not a country that tends to shout about its heritage. It preserves it quietly, carefully, with a kind of stubborn patience. And nowhere is that more true than with the Swedish Vallhund, a small, low-slung herding dog that nearly vanished from the earth in the middle of the 20th century, saved by the effort of two men who refused to let it go quietly. To understand what the Vallhund is, you have to understand what it was bred to do. For centuries across the farms and small holdings of Västergötland, the flat, lake-dotted province in southern Sweden, farmers kept a compact, wire-coated cattle dog for driving livestock. The work required a dog that could move fast across rough ground, nip at the heels of cattle far larger than itself, and take a kick without breaking. Low to the ground was an advantage. A dog that stood 10 inches at the shoulder was a much harder target for a hoof than one standing 20. The Vallhund, over generations of working life, was shaped by exactly that logic. The breed's full Swedish name, Västgötaspets, simply means Spitz of the West Goths, a reference to the region and to the Spitz-type structure that characterizes the breed. The prick ears, the wedge-shaped head, the tightly curled or bobbed tail. These are features shared with Nordic working dogs going back a very long way. How far back is the part that generates debate. The Viking era connection is one the breed is frequently associated with, and not without reason. Archaeological finds at sites across Scandinavia have turned up skeletal remains of small Spitz-type dogs dating to the Viking Age, and written sources describe dogs of similar type being used on Norse farms and longships. Whether the Vallhund descends in a direct, unbroken line from those dogs is impossible to prove, but the structural similarities are real, and the breed was certainly present in Sweden well before written breed records began. By the time anyone thought to document it, it had simply always been there, a working fixture of rural Västergötland life. The question of how the Vallhund relates to the Welsh Corgi, particularly the Pembroke Welsh Corgi, is one that the internet will cheerfully argue about forever, and the honest answer is that nobody knows for certain. Both breeds are low-set, herding dogs of similar build and temperament. The most commonly cited theory suggests that Viking traders or raiders brought Vallhund-type dogs to Wales, or alternatively that Corgi-type dogs travelled the other way. What can be said is that by the time either breed was formally recorded, they had been separated long enough to develop distinct characteristics. The Vallhund is harder coated, slightly longer in body, and was developed specifically for cattle work on Swedish terrain. The Corgi was shaped by Welsh hill farming conditions. They may share distant ancestry, or they may simply represent a parallel solution to the same practical problem. The uncertainty is part of what makes the history interesting. What is well documented is the crisis that hit the breed in the early 20th century. As mechanized farming reduced the demand for working cattle dogs, the Vallhund population shrank. By the 1940s, the breed had declined to the point of near extinction. Breed historian accounts from the period describe encounters with only a handful of surviving dogs, concentrated in a small area of Västergötland. The gene pool was critically narrow. The recovery of the Swedish Vallhund comes down to two men, Björn von Rosen, a Swedish count with a genuine commitment to preserving native breeds, and KG Zettersten, a dog enthusiast who helped locate the remaining dogs and establish the early breeding program. Von Rosen had become aware of the breed's plight and began searching for purebred specimens in the 1940s. The dogs that formed the foundation of the modern breed were found in small numbers in Västergötland, and Zettersten was instrumental in tracking them down. One of the most significant early dogs, a female named Lansen, is regarded as foundational to the modern population. The Swedish Kennel Club officially recognized the breed in 1943, giving the recovery effort formal institutional support at a moment when it was badly needed. From that recognition, the breeding program could proceed with documented pedigrees and some degree of coordination. The numbers grew slowly. The breed remained rare for decades, well known in Sweden and in certain Nordic dog circles, but largely unknown outside them. International recognition came later. The UK Kennel Club granted the breed recognition in the 1980s, and the American Kennel Club followed in 1996, though the Vallhund remains relatively uncommon in both countries. In the United States, the breed is frequently encountered through herding and agility sports circles, where its drive and intelligence have made it a capable performer. In Sweden, it has retained a working population alongside the show and sport lines. The Vallhund's temperament is perhaps one of the things that surprises people who encounter the breed for the first time. The assumption with a small dog is often one of delicacy or nervousness or excessive attachment to a single owner. The Vallhund tends toward the opposite. These are confident, assertive dogs, not aggressive but genuinely self-possessed. They were bred to manage cattle independently, which required a dog with the nerve to hold its ground and the intelligence to make decisions without constant direction. That independence hasn't been bred out. A Vallhund will work with you, but it will also have opinions about how that work should go. The herding instinct can express itself in domestic settings in predictable ways. Children, smaller animals, and even adults have occasionally found themselves being quietly moved from one part of a room to another. The behavior is instinctive and non-aggressive, a gentle heel nip, a positioning nudge, but it does require management in households where it's unwanted. The flip side is a dog that is genuinely engaged with its environment, alert, trainable, and responsive to structured work. The Vallhund suits an active owner who wants a working partner in a compact body. Health-wise, the breed is relatively sound by the standards of modern pedigree dogs, with the expected structural considerations around the long back and short legs that characterize any low-set breed. There is a hereditary eye condition, Vallhund retinopathy, that has been identified in the breed population and for which genetic testing is now available. Responsible breeders screen for it. The population remains small enough that genetic diversity is a live concern, and the breed has benefited from occasional outcrossing programs designed to widen the gene pool without losing type. What the Swedish Vallhund represents ultimately is a story about the relationship between working utility and breed survival. The breeds that made it through the 20th century intact were, almost without exception, the ones that had active communities of people who valued them enough to do something about it. The Vallhund nearly didn't make it. It made it because von Rosen and Zettersten went and found the dogs, recorded them, and built something from the few that remained. The result is a breed that has been present in Scandinavian farming life for over 1,000 years. That helped drive cattle across the flatlands of Västergötland long before anyone thought to write its history down. And that, against considerable odds, is still here.